Hi, this is Wishop. Welcome to 2018. What I want to talk about before I do the reading, I'm doing Lenormand in Lenormand, is that a lot of people have talked about the emotional quality of this full moon in Cancer, which is, of course, true, and it's true every year around this time. But the fact is, with the Sun in Capricorn and now Saturn in Capricorn, there's really a chance to do imaginative wish casting, which is what I want to talk about. There's an ability right now to cope with any challenging people or challenging situations with the power of imagination, letting the universe work out the realistic details. What I mean by that is that if you're in a situation that you're finding difficult with a person, it's a meeting that's not going well, it's obstacles that you're facing, whatever it is. If you can give yourself a moment to just imagine in the most outlandish Looney Tunes kind of way, like imagine Wile E. Coyote ordering some weird product from Acme to try to get the Roadrunner. Just imagine something. It can be very outlandish. The more imaginative, the better. That amuses you, that would solve your problem. For example, I wouldn't necessarily think about like horrible violence to somebody. I don't think that's going to rebound to your favor. But you can think about, let's say there's someone in a meeting who is not listening to you and you don't think you're going to get a chance to speak. So just in the quiet of your mind, you can imagine that person velcroed to their chair and, their ears growing to 50 times their normal size as they listen to you with a nodding, happy, attentive look on their face. And it doesn't matter what you make it, just make it something that somewhat amuses you, something imaginative. And give yourself the relief from the reality of the situation, and then watch and see the way the universe can fulfill that in real life, not by velcroing the person to the chair and growing their ears, but you could notice that 2 minutes after you have that little break, you give yourself an emotional release from the frustration or the irritation that you feel. Just on the inside, just for you. When you do that, 2 minutes later, somebody could turn to you and go, yeah, I think we've heard enough from person X. Didn't you have a lot you wanted to say on this? And all of a sudden you find, wait, they're listening to me now? Because the universe will take orders from you in that kind of law of attraction way. Right now, those orders that you put in can be done in a very imaginative, light-hearted way. And I know people talk about the heaviness of Saturn and this kind of thing. I really think right now imagination and dreaming is highly favored. Don't worry about the details. Just give yourself the emotional relief, laughing, taking a deep breath, imagining, an anvil falling on some situation. It's hard for me to make them up for you, but whatever you can do to come up with just an imaginative vision of a solution to your problem is actually going to give you some relief. And you may be surprised to see that the universe can take that as an order or take that as a request and fulfill it in some very realistic fashion. So I think now is a time not to be afraid to dream big and to be imaginative and think about the way you want to feel. So especially as people start doing goal setting, they can start to feel intimidated, like they don't have everything they need to fulfill their goals, or the mountain seems too high. I want to remind you that Capricorn is a sea goat. It's not just a goat. It's also a fish. The crab of Cancer not only can live in the water, but can live on land. Not only has the hard crusty exterior and the pinchers, but also has the, the soft inside. So these are really flexible animals that can deal with anything that's thrown at them. And you can think of yourself as some imaginative cartoon vehicle, like you need to be a helicopter, like make a propeller come out of your head. You're a helicopter, right? You need to be an ATV, you be that. I don't think I'm communicating this very well, but the realm of imagination is strong now. And as long as your goals are good and solid and reflect your own authenticity and integrity, just don't be afraid to write a really crazy, imaginative wish list and see what the universe can do with it. So that's what I wanted to talk about. We're heading toward a new moon in Capricorn, which will also be great for this. So really just be thinking, I don't think you need to be so realistic right now. I know that people are talking about, we want to make things concrete and real. And I'm like, yeah, I think all that's going to happen. I think that stuff is going to get fleshed out as it manifests, but you don't have to figure out every last detail of how things will manifest. You just have to figure out what the end goal is and be in your own truth and integrity and ethics with it, and try to keep your heart light. I think that will help. Anyway, so I finally got the mystical Lenormand, which I've wanted for a while. It's one that James Him Mitchell uses quite a bit. He's another Lenormand reader on YouTube. So it's by Regula Elizabeth Fiechter, and painted by Urban Trosch. And I'm using this with my regular retro Lenormand, and I'm putting Lenormand cards in Lenormand houses, which is something you've probably seen me do before if you've seen my videos. Here's the mountain. So here is our Capricorn card. Here is the mountain. Here is your goal. Now, it is traditional to think of this card as an obstacle. But this card, in this case, is our central issue. So it's going to be interesting to see what this card is. What kind of obstacles are we dealing with? But also, what mountains have we defined for ourselves? What are our goals? And I think I want to go back to the thing, this is not a goal about what you want to see happen necessarily in every last defined detail. This is about, how do you want to feel about yourself? How do you want to feel about your accomplishment? How do you want to feel about your goal? So let's see what we've got over here. The birds. Okay, great. Man. All right. So when I'm doing a general reading, I would take this less as a significator going toward a man, although man can certainly play a part in it, and I'll talk about that. But I would take it as more the energy of Mars, action. So this is a time, the birds I think of as very Gemini. It can be a card of agitation. It can be a card of talk, talking about things. It can be a card of pairs. It can be a card of gossip and anxiety, and in a more negative sense. It can also be a card of fruitful conversations and cooperation and collaboration. Here, it looks like what's happening is we're moving from this area where there was anxiety within a group, I might say. Maybe you were talking to people about your goals, and in the group that you were in or talking to the people that you were talking to, you felt a sense of anxiety, perhaps difficulty in achievement. And so here you are in this card sort of alone, looking up at that mountain. These birds are sort of flying away from this. So this might be a goal that other people don't see as a mountaintop. It's not their personal acme, to use the Wile E. Coyote thing again, the acme, the top of the mountain. This is not their goal. This is your goal. And talking to them about your goal may have built up a certain amount of anxiety in your mind or scattered thinking. And what's happening here, we move from this time of sort of looking up at it to a time of action, a time where we go, I'm going for it. And Mars, if you think of the symbol for Mars, which is this circle with this arrow attached to it, it's very directed. And here we've got this man with this fist in the air, and he's going for it. So it looks like this might be a time when whatever it is you're pursuing, you're sort of moving away from the group opinion, and you're following your own counsel. And I think that's a good thing to do, because you can't invite anyone into your imagination. I'm trying to give you imaginative examples of how to wish cast, and I can think of them for me, but they wouldn't make any sense to you. So it's important here to think about your own mountain, your own wishes, your own imagination. But I think we're moving from a position of anxiety about that into a time of action. So let's see what we get in the houses. Okay, so the mystical Lenormand, we have the Book, which is a Piscean card. Okay. And this is lilies. So we see these purple lilies in here. The Moon, which is very apt. And here we have the birds again. It always means something when they show up. Now this has birds. I think of it as sort of a Gemini in third house. This has birds as Uranus, which is sort of disruptive, or can be disruptive and, shocking things. So let's get these in here. If I have Lily in the house of birds, because Lily often deals with established, older wisdom, I would say it could be that you have been collecting wisdom or ideas from senior people, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, to take in what is known about a subject, to really get a foundation in it. But I think that some of what you've learned as received wisdom has made you agitated about your own chances. This can be a card of serenity, and in the house of the birds, it sort of indicates that the serenity that you would feel, the confidence in your own wisdom, has been somewhat disrupted. And it could be because of the advice that you've been getting, even while you've been learning. And so what you feel, because Book can be a card of information, knowledge, research, secrets, is that there's an obstacle to your progress, and it's all the things you don't know. So especially if this is in an area where you have been studying what is already known, or you've been taking advice from someone who seems senior to you, you may feel that your lack of knowledge is an obstacle, and that you are not sure you can move forward because you just don't know enough. And that can have created a sense of agitation and anxiety and a lack of confidence. But what this is saying is that action, in fact, these birds, which is really interesting if we compare these depictions, look at these owls. They are wise and serious, right? They're sitting still. They don't look easily budged, even though the card is marked for Uranus. These birds are just flying away everywhere. I feel like what's happening is you are having to settle into some action in man that may be disruptive. What's happening is that all of your information gathering has now led to a place where the action that seems most likely to bring success for you or fulfills your dreams is disruptive action. Or it might come from an unusual or unorthodox source. So I would say that's exciting. This is that wish casting. This is thinking out of the box. This is, ordering, the watermelon cannon from Acme and using that somehow in the middle of the desert to try to get your goals. So I hope that you found this useful. I want to thank you for your likes, your comments, and your subscriptions. Keep being unorthodox and rock on with your bad selves.